Today on Unpacked.
My uncle said, you have to go to another level now and go to Brazil. What are you going to do in Brazil? You're going to fetch the stuff to bring it to South Africa. And then the trouble started there. Started to have some dirty minds that I will fix you, Sizakele. And then police came unto me. They said, we got the cocaine and it's the real one. We are going to prison.
Drug trafficking and being locked up abroad. Today's guest is here to share her story. Let's unpack. After the death of her mother, 26-year-old Sizakele Maphupha went from being a young and carefree woman to having to make means for herself. She then turned to a lifestyle of hustling and doing anything and everything to obtain a lavish lifestyle that landed her in a Brazilian prison. This is her story. Let's unpack. Sizakele, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Good. So, take me back to where you were in life before you made the decision to go and basically be a drug mule.
Okay, firstly, my name is Sizakele, and I was born and brought up in Soweto. I was this child that was spoiled brat. If I want something, I will get it. And if I want it now, and I wanted to get it now if I wanted. So my mother at that time, used to spoil me and give me everything that I want. She never knew that time that she was spoiling me, but it was not good.
So at the time, who was it in the household that was raising you? Was it just your mom?
Yes, it was my mom.
Yes. So she was spoiling you, and as you say, you were a spoiled brat. In what way was she spoiling you?
I was staying in a house that was so big, and it's a coal side. So they were selling coal, coal, if you want to make braai, you buy those coals. So that business was a business that was so good that time. So it was going, and I was the one who's like checking money, you know what I mean? So I was taking from that money, and she was not even saying, why are you stealing that time? So it was stealing because I was not asking, So I was that kind of a person that I used to give, I used to do show off. My friends, all the stuff, she's girl, Sizakele, you know what I mean? So I was that kind of person.
So when you finished school, what was it that you were doing with your life?
I never finished school.
So you never finished high school?
Yes.
What happened?
I was on grade 11, and I was on private schools. Private school, we bunk school, and we used to tell our parents that we are going to school, and we were not. So we even find people who can do reports for us. You know what I mean? So I was that kind of a child. I was so spoiled, and I was so naughty, and no connection because, those people, if you've got money, you know how to do everything. I thought so, So I used to do those things. So I finished school at grade 11. Yes.
So you finished school at grade 11, and there was no pressure around you to get your matric and do something else?
No, my mom was like, my daughter, that time I was alone. My sister was not there. She was like, oh, my baby girl, If we are parents, there's something that we do with our children. We spoil them. We don't know, those children, they're going to be father or mother tomorrow, So we're thinking that we are doing good by doing that. And we don't know that we are breaking their future.
So was there a part of you that wanted to make something of your life, and what was that something?
I was this kind of person saying, I want to be rich. I want to see myself driving. I want to see myself wearing Socrates, preview. I just want to people to see me. I was that kind of person who had pride before, because clothes can make you to have pride. You know what I mean? I said that I'm wearing this because it's a mark, there's something that you pay attention. People must pay attention to you.
But how in your mind were you planning to be rich and to have all those things?
I never thought about it. It was like money. If money is on your side, You don't have this mind, medulla, to maybe thinking that you can do something because you think your mother's own are your own particular things, but it was not like that.
So would you say you were entitled?
Yes.
Okay. So now what happens that you are presented with an opportunity to travel abroad to, go and get drugs?
What happened, I had my uncle, my mother passed away. So I had to go and stay with my uncle. And I already...
And how is your uncle?
My uncle is like the brother of my mother.
Okay.
Yes. So I had to go. Remember, the business is going down. My mother is not there. And I had to go and stay with him in his house. And I already knew that he was doing the business of drugs at the time.
Yes.
So I was so happy. Even though my mother died, I never had that thing that, I will struggle. I said, I'm going to another level. I'm like, I'm going to be a drug dealer now. So...
And that was exciting for you?
Yes.
Why was that exciting?
Because money was on my mind. There was nothing, it was like clothes, perfumes, money. Yeah.
So you went to stay with your uncle, and what happened?
I went to stay with my uncle. So my uncle told me, Sizakele, you know what happened? I was doing drugs with my uncle locally after my mother passed away. So we used to go to brothels, and so I used to go there, not him. He used to just give me the drugs. Then he will just say that here is where we used to keep them. And after Sizakele go, you understand me? So I used to sell them locally until he made the decision that you are passing to another level. At school you pass. So even drugs you pass. So he's like, go to Brazil. I'm like, oh, wow. Latino Americano, where we'll see MC Hammer, you know what I mean? And all those people. So I agreed.
So what were the drugs that you guys were selling?
It was different drugs. It was heroin, coke, ecstasy. Yeah.
And at the time, were you also using drugs?
Yes. I was using ecstasy because I wanted to be hyper. Ecstasy, you just take it. It's a pill. You take it and you drink it with water. And it will just make you hyper to just go around. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was like that.
Okay, so now he says to you, I want you to go to Brazil because you are now at a new level, which was exciting for you.
Yes.
What then happened after that?
My uncle said, you have to go to another level now and go to Brazil. Then I agreed. I said, okay, that's fine. We can do that. Then we made some passport and, it's not taking long. Then I went to Brazil.
But was he saying to you, going to go and do a transaction there and bring drugs home?
Yes.
Okay.
He already told me that what are you going to do in Brazil? You're going to fetch the stuff to bring it to South Africa. Yes.
And he had already promised you a car when you come back?
Yes, a Land Rover.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 26 years old.
So in all the time from your mom passing up until 26, you are now basically dealing drugs with your uncle?
Yes.
So what happened next now? It's time to go.
Wow. I was so excited. If you're doing something that you don't know, sometimes you think that is right. You can remember that ecstasy was on me and I was hyper. And then taking it, saying like, I'm going to make it. My focus was on the car, Land Rover white leather suit. They ask you in the airport here in South Africa, what are you going to do in Brazil, And then I told them, because I had some money with me, some dollars, they use dollars. So I told them that I'm going to buy some clothes. And the men assisted, keep on asking me the second time. And the third time saying, ma'am, tell me, what are you going to do in Brazil? I'm like, no, I'm going to buy some clothes. Then I embarked the plane. I went, they left me. Then I went to Brazil.
So you land in Brazil, was it Sao Paulo?
Yes. I landed in Sao Paulo. And then while I landed in Sao Paulo, remember that I don't know how to speak Portuguese, remember? I'm in Latin America now, you understand?
And you're by yourself, first time traveling there.
And I was not even shy or having this thing that I'm gonna go to prison. I was so brave, you know. I had that thing, Land Rover, just going, coming back. You know, that time I used to go to clubs, you know. So I was like, they will see me, these people. They will know who I am, you know. So I went to Brazil. I arrived safely. I went. So if you're going like from Brazil to here, you must have the airport. They told you which airport are you gonna go. So there was a airport that I have to arrive, but I arrived in the airport, the hotel, sorry, but the hotel was not the same hotel, but the name was similar.
Yes.
So I arrived there, I entered there. Then what was the problem? I forgot the code to call you in South Africa. If you are in Brazil, you have to put some code to call South Africa. So after all, while I was there, I had to go to a mall to find a ship to start calling my uncle. Then I asked them in the hotel, can you help me by the code of South Africa? They started to help me. And it was the third day, I think so. So after all, what happened? I started to call my uncle. Then I explained, I am in this kind of hotel. Then he said, no, it's a wrong hotel. He started to give the guy I supposed to meet in Brazil my number. Then we started to communicate with the guy.
And this is the guy that you're going to now do the transaction with?
Yes.
So when did you eventually meet the guy, and what happened then?
Then I met the guy. Then what happened now? We have to change the hotel, not the same hotel. Because what happened, drug trafficking, it's a mafian stuff, you know? You have to change things and you have to watch. If you arrive in the country where they sent you, they have to hide you. Because there are other gentlemen, women, they look for people, they used to steal them, that, okay, this person is here, we can still give her or him money so that we can steal that person, so that we can have that person. So what happened, they have to put you in the hotel that is so clumsy that nobody can think that maybe one person is there. So I went there. While I went there, the guy lately, he knocked in the hotel. Then remember, I was not expecting anybody that time. And then I had this, my dress, sexy dress, you know. While he was knocking, I'm like, you know, and then I look, it was him. Then I started to, wow, why? But I opened because, you know, and then he said to me, I came to sleep here, holding his laptop, you know, holding the dollars in the hands. Like, I'm like, wow, we never talked with this guy. How come he came to sleep here? And then the trouble started there. Because in this journey, you have to, like, supply yourself. You know, it's a mafian stuff. Remember, I told you. So what happened? The guy wanted to get involved with me. Then I said, no, not me. I was sent by my own uncle. You know who I am. You know, that pride, you know. You know who I am. I'm Sizakele, and that is my uncle. I'll call him now. Then he said, okay, let's cut. It's fine. I cannot force you, but we usually do that with other ladies.
So he was trying to sleep with you?
Yes.
Yeah.
You understand me? So I said, no, I cannot do that.
Did he try to rape you?
No.
Okay.
But he was forcing himself to do that. Then I said, no, I will scream. Remember, it's a hotel. And then I was screaming. He said, no, okay, I will leave you. And then the trouble started there. He started to have some dirty minds that I will fix you, Sizakele. You see? So what he does, he said, what are we going to do? He was asking me where to put the drugs. I'm like, no, but I came to pick the stuff. And what happened now? And because you must tell me, because I came to fetch the thing to you. Then he said, no, I don't know where to put it now. No, you know, those excuses. I said, no, it's fine. Remember, I'm in Sao Paulo. He told me on the 6th day, I have to be there 7 days. So he said on the 6th day, you have to go to Rio de Janeiro, Copacabana. Then he said, you cannot transit here in Sao Paulo. There are missions that we do to confuse, you know, the police and all those people. Then I said, okay, then. Then he started to pack the things. He brought the drugs, you know, in the hotel. Then I supposed to go to Rio de Janeiro, then with a bus traveling there. And then I took the thing with me. It was on the cooler, but the coolers are different. You know, remember, it's another standard of America.
Yeah.
It's another cooler, but, you know, it does not look like a cooler box, but it's, you know, like portable. Then he put the drugs there. Then I traveled to go to Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro. After going to Rio de Janeiro, I landed there in the hotel. I slept there. I checked in the hotel, in the airport. I was not arrested.
So everything was fine up until that point?
Yes. Then I went back to Sao Paulo. Remember, they are changing their things. Then after all, I went to Rio. I checked in. Everything was well. And I bought this book. This book was having Land Rover. And I'm like, wow. After checking in, everything went well. I called my uncle. Everything was successful. And then I was waiting for the plane to, embark in the plane. And then police came unto me. Are you Sizakele? And then I said, yes. I'm like, they paid. It's just, you know what I mean. Then after they said, come with us because we saw something that is not right in your, in your stuff. I said, look, surely you can, brave.
Were you not scared at all?
No, because remember that they told me that they paid. So I thought it's police that they're working with them. And it was not it. After all, they checked the cocaine. They said, we got the cocaine and it's the real one. You are going to prison.
And how much cocaine did they find? Do you remember?
Yes, it was 3 point something. Then I started to shiver there. Immediately, everything changed on me. It was not me, That braveness went out. You know what I mean? It was like I was a fool then. I started to have those days of the mothers immediately, So they attended me, to the loo, but in the police station inside the airport. So I started to go there. They gave me some pets. Then I started to call my uncle that it is so bad, I'm arrested. He said, no, how? Because you already gave us the number, I'm like, I don't know how. Then it's how I went to prison.
So now, did you get a court date? Did you get a trial? Or it's automatic prison?
No, in Brazil it's different than South Africa. You don't go to court the next day. You have to sit, until they call you. So it was a process. I stayed in Brazil 8 months before I go to court.
Wow.
Yes.
And was the South African embassy helping you?
Now, they help you. For an example, if you are there the first time, they have to ask you, have you be able to write to your family and everything? But they help you only that. Yes.
So then what was, you start your prison, not sentence, you start your prison time, and then they call you up for your sentencing. And what was your sentencing?
It was 4 years, 8 months.
4 years, 8 months.
Yes.
What was prison like?
Wow. It was a great privilege for me to go to prison.
Why do you say that?
Because maybe I was supposed to die at that time. Because remember, while I was giving people drugs, there are people, they got para. We call them para. The other ones, they were injecting themselves. And
what is para?
They get paranoid. You become higher. You know what I mean? So in that process, maybe there were people who were dying that time. We were giving them drugs. You know what I mean? So remember, the life I was living was so rough. God has to change my life, by going there, giving me the rest, but on other way.
So are you saying it was a privilege to go to jail as opposed to getting a harsher sentence for something worse? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying God has put me there for a purpose so that he changed my life inside prison.
Okay.
It was not easy, but it was worth it. Why? Because inside prison, I learned who I was. Outside, I never knew that Sizakele had something that was bestowed unto her. So going to prison, I learned a lot. I learned that freedom is very important. And I learned that who I was. I started to motivate inside prison, to be a speaker inside prison. And I started to preach the gospel inside the prison. And remember that I was a leader, but I was leading the sheep very wrong by giving them drugs. But I never knew that I have to be a good leader to tell people that this is what we are seeing, that I was doing this. Now God has changed my life. But I had to go to prison that 4 years, 8 months. But it was not 4 years, 8 months. I stayed in prison 5 years.
So tell me what a day in prison was like. I want to get an understanding of what was prison like.
Okay. The first day, it was not good. 1 month, it was not good. 2 months, it was not good.
Give me an example of a day in prison.
Okay.
From when you wake up, what is prison like?
It's so yuck. It is it's like a monster, because you're sleeping where you don't have freedom. You understand me? You are caged. You stay with people you don't know. You understand me? And they're speaking different language that you don't know. And remember, fear is still there. That how are you going to survive in prison? You know what I mean? So it was so hectic.
Like, did you make any friendships in prison?
Yes, a lot. Remember that I was there, I was seeing what people are doing. So I said, okay, I'm here in prison, but I can be a better person inside prison, but be a better person,
What were you seeing people do in prison?
If you're in prison, people, they've got different characters and different careers. You know what I mean? So other people, they will tell you that I was here in prison, but I started to learn English in prison. You know what I mean? I started to do nails in prison. I started to know how to do fixed hair. So while I was there, I started to say, okay, because I never knew. You remember you asked me a question. You said that time I was doing grade 11. I never had some like, Sizakele is going to be somebody tomorrow, maybe an advocate. But while I was in prison, I started to know that I'm a speaker, that I'm a life coach. So with Peace, while I was in prison, I started to know how to speak now. You understand? How to feel for people. You understand me? How to have a passion that this person is going through what? If I can counsel her and tell her that, yes, I was here one day, but after 2 months, I've learned some things. I'm here, I'm standing. We can still make it.
What was your hardest day in prison and why?
My God. It was the day that I went to court. Because remember, I was sent by my own uncle. But the other thing, I had to forgive the same time.
Do you think he set you up?
Now, it was that guy, remember?
Yes.
That one I was with in the hotel.
Yes.
Why I'm saying this? Because while I was going there, in my bag, I was having a white T-shirt that was not my own and the trouser. The guy put those things inside the bag because he knew that he will set me up.
As in the bag, for it to be your bag with drugs in it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what happened? He already knew. What happened? That time I went to prison, the police, they were there. They asked me, you people, do you know that they, what happened? I said, no. See, police, they speak English. They said, we know you were trapped. Those police, that guy trapped you. You understand me? But you don't have to do what? After you went out, you have to be free because it's dangerous. You're in Brazil and the guy was there. You understand? There's nothing you'll do. You're in prison.
Why do you say the day you went to court was the hardest day for you in prison? What happened on that day?
Remember, it was my first time to get arrested. Hey? And I have to go to court. I have to speak. It's like a reminder. They're reminding me what was happening on that day. So while the judge was asking me questions that who sent me, I didn't tell him the truth, that it was my own uncle. But inside me, there was this anger and envy that, wow, I'm alone in this mess today, So what happened? Envy, I was crying. This crying, I thought the judge will even feel pity for me. But same time I was lying. I didn't tell them that I was sent by my own uncle. I said, I told them some excuses. Why I was doing that, I thought I have to protect my uncle for him to not go to prison. You understand? So envy and anger and fear was there. And thinking again, how am I going to get sentenced as young I was, remember? So it was like that.
So what did you tell the judge about what happened? Did you confess or did you say the drugs were not mine?
No, I didn't confess. I told the judge another story, that I met a friend in Joburg and he made me to meet some guys and blah, 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 those things.
Yeah.
So it's how I spoke in. I never told them the truth that it was my own same uncle who sent me to prison.
Yeah. And that same guy was the correct guy that you were supposed to meet with all along.
Yes.
So how is it that the guy that your uncle set you up to meet with is the one that set you up to be caught? Because that was your uncle's contact.
Remember that money is another thing. If it's the issue of money, you forget anything.
Yeah.
You don't, even your own blood, you can betray with money.
Yeah.
Money is it's evil.
Yeah.
You know, you think on that time how to use it, and there's no spirit of fulfillment unto money. If money is there, even though how money it can be big, you can hold millions, you still have this spirit of wanting money, having things. You understand me? You are empty, you know?
So do you think your uncle betrayed you?
No, I still say no.
You still say no?
Yes.
And do you feel that you could have been more careful in not being caught, as in you take responsibility that you were arrested because of something you did?
Yes, yes. If you're doing wrong, they have to punish you, isn't so?
Yes,
You have to get a punishment on that thing you have done so that you can be corrected tomorrow. You learn by your own mistake.
Yeah.
So that you cannot go back and do the similar process that you have done.
Yeah. Okay, so now you serve your time. What happened on the day of the release?
My God. I want to just add something as we're speaking. In prison, you know, you write to people, you call them correspondence. So I had the guy I was writing to, you know. Why we were doing that? Because what happened, you asked me the first time that, is South Africa consulate helping you? If you're going to go out, you have to have an address, firstly, from Brazil. If you don't have, you're going to stay in prison. And that's so important. So you meet your friends, you chat, and they will tell you that you must have somebody you are writing. And the person was inside prison, but he was staying in Brazil. So I had some correspondence I was writing to, you know. So he went out before I was in prison. So what happened, I was writing to him and he had a place. So I had that thing that, oh, wow, if I'm going out, I will have some place to stay. You know, a shelter is something else, you know. So what happened, I was writing to him, then I got the release. That time he gave me his address to give the judge that I will be staying with so person in such place. So they took me out, then I went out. So I had the guy, you know, it's like we were going out, but we never see each other. So we were writing the paper, oh, you know, I will marry you, all those things, kind of things. You know, guys, how they are, you know, rolling, smooth operator, telling me things that I want to know too. You know how women we are. We are so fast to catch things, you know. So I went out and then he was the one who's taking control of me. That time I went out. Because remember, my uncle is not there. So he had the house that time.
So were you ever at a point where you could now call your uncle to say, I want to come back home?
No.
Why?
If you go out of prison, you have to sign again. It's like a parole, but you have finished your sentence.
What do you mean sign? What do you mean? I don't understand.
You must be signing, like the court will be calling you. There are dates you'll be signing after they said, now it's enough.
Okay. So you basically had to serve parole
Yes.
while you were out, which means you have to stay in Sao Paulo.
Yes.
For how long did you have to stay there?
I stayed there almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now you've met this person, you're staying with them, and then what happened?
Not with them, with him.
With him, yes.
Yes. What happened, you know, it's you know, as I was telling, we were writing, we started to date, you know, and then while I was there, everything was good, you know.
What were you doing with your life?
My dear, I never wanted to put myself into prostitution because I should have went out and stay and do the same thing I was doing. Because other people, they go back to prison. So I said, I want my life changed that time. At least if this person can give me a shelter to sleep. You understand that?
So he was basically taking care of you?
Yes.
You didn't have to do anything?
Yes.
Okay. So what happened? What were the circumstances that led you to coming back home?
The same guy was doing drugs, but not in the house.
Yes.
He used to go and sleep outside. Said, remember, Sizakele, you don't want... Because prison is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy at all. What happened? He was doing it, but with other sisters of mine of South Africa. So he was going out with them. He was betraying me, you know. So the guy was arrested again. And I was there and I had to I had a baby that time with a guy. You understand me? And my daughter was so young. So the guy went to prison again with the South African lady. You understand that one? They were dealing together. So what happened? I said, how can I stay here? And the guy was helping me. I had to, come back home. The guy arranged, with one guy to buy me a ticket so that I can come back home. So it's how I came back to South Africa.
And before then, you didn't have the desire to come back home?
I had it. My God, I had it. Remember that I was in Brazil, and now I've got a baby, and the guy is arrested. I'm like, no, I don't want anything now. I have to come back home.
But I mean, prior to all of that happening, did you want to go back home?
Yes.
Prior to the child, prior to everything?
Yes, I wanted to be with my family. Despising what happened, there's something that we do. Somebody can do you anything, but you have to have the spirit of forgiveness. Because you're not doing for him, you're doing for your own life. Because you're still going to have some children, you understand me, life, career. So I had to forgive my uncle. You understand me? So I had that thing that one day I will come back and hug him, and show him love and teach him that Sizakele has changed now. He's not a drug dealer, he's an ex-drug dealer. You know what I mean? Yes.
So you fly back home because somebody helped you buy a ticket and you left the man behind. He's gone to jail.
Yes.
What was homecoming like?
While I arrived in South Africa, I had the prema of my daughter, So I was pushing her. I had joy in me. But at the same time, I was grieving, I was crying. Being long time, coming back home, I was abroad and it was not good in that abroad. I was in prison. Now coming back, I was looking at this angel that God has blessed me with. You understand? I was like, inside me, I was like, I cannot go back anymore. I had a bundle joy with me, pushing her slowly, going, saying, my life has changed now. I know who I am. I'm not empty,
And in the time that you were in Brazil, in prison, were you ever in touch with any other family? Did you have any other support from back home?
No, it was my uncle, but after so long, it was my same uncle.
So you didn't have any other family you were in touch with?
Nah.
Not at all?
Nah.
I think it's surprising for me because usually as Africans, as Black people, we come with a village of family. And it sounds like from what you're telling me, you only had your uncle on your side.
You know what happened? Everybody, my uncle had a covenant with his things. Everybody passed on my family. It was only him, that time. You understand me? But let me tell you something. I had the family in Brazil. They were taking control of me inside there. Remember, I was a life coach. Hey, so they were even calling their families outside. So while they were visiting them, they were calling me. I was part of the family.
And what is your relationship with Brazil right now, in your heart and where you are in life?
I want to tell you something. I love Brazil more than my country because they took control of me and they're so loving. And I knew who I was inside prison. You understand me? So I love Brazil more than my country.
What has life been like for you since you arrived back in the country with your baby?
Oh, rejection.
From who?
From its family, but not like my cousins, those like my uncles, the other uncles that I used to have. You understand me? When I came back, remember, I never had anything.
Yeah.
And remember, that time I had some stocks. And now I'm coming back just with only a daughter, not with money. And that time, remember, I was a cheap boaster, boasting, buying them things. And now I'm coming back empty. So nobody will like you that time. You understand? But I understood it was just a process because it was a season. Each and everybody had to pass through things, so that you may understand who you are.
So how did you survive when you came back? Because you hadn't been doing any legitimate work, but your life was changed.
I came back, I stayed with my own uncle, the same uncle. So he was staying in this bedroom. It was a big house. So that time, remember that I'm back and I have to eat there. But remember that I had my mouth, and remember that I am a preacher today. I'm preaching the gospel. So I was meeting people outside, praying with them, So by doing that, God was sustaining me, Before, I never knew that you cannot sustain by your own. Like, for an example, people who are working, they think that they are sustained by their own money. No, it's not by your own strength. You understand me? It is because of the grace of God we are sustained. Yes.
So what would you say the greatest lesson was that you learned in prison?
I will just say you need to be content on what you have for that time. Why? Because you are delayed, but you are not denied. The process that you are for now is for that time. You're still going to pick up. You know why? Because I've learned that fast cash is not good, or thinking that is not good. Be with those things that you have until you are content and established for that moment, and you will go to another level.
What was the moment in prison that made you realize you want to give your life to God, become a life coach, become a pastor?
In prison, there are people who visit us. As today, I'm a minister. Today, I minister because of what I've went through, and God has teach me. It's not me. So what happened? They make you to accept Christ, but my own was different. While I was going to Brazil, I was going to church, but I was a churchgoer. I was not saved. There's a difference.
Yes.
There's a difference of being saved and being a churchgoer. That time, going to church, I was going to church because I had good clothes.
Yes.
I was going to church because I had that money to give. You understand me? So while I went to Brazil, the first day, I forgot to say, I've surrendered all to Jesus. I did like this. I said, Mrs. Sizakele, I cannot go back. Now I'm taking Christ. And I've promised God, I make a covenant with God, that God, if I can take my life, because I was playing before. Now I'm making a covenant with Christ that no more I go back. You understand me?
But was there something specific that happened that made you make that decision?
Yes.
And what was that?
That time my life was empty. Remember, I was naked. Remember, I was the one who's selling drugs, not my uncle.
Yes.
So I'm the one who went to prison. My uncle was not in prison. So my life had to change because of what? If you're in prison, remember that your mind comes back. That you think why I was wasting my time. You know what I mean? Why I was wasting money. What I was doing. I was doing that to be seen. You know what I mean? So I started to be sober when I was in prison. I started to know who I was. Where I want to go. My goals, to achieve my goals. So I've learned a lot in prison that freedom is important. I don't have to play with it. Why I'm saying that? Because I was locked. And prison is not just only prison to be locked. Your marriage can be in prison. You understand me? Your child can be in prison by taking drugs. You understand me? Yourself not forgiving, you can be in prison.
Did prison force you to quit taking drugs?
No, I made a decision. I never went to the rehab. The rehab was my medulla, bringing back who I was in this nation. Yes.
What are the final words you'd like to share with viewers that you'd like them to know about your story and your journey with regards to being locked up in Brazil?
I just want people to learn that doing things that are not genuine is not good. You can sell those vegetables. I usually say, imagine Mr. Mabotja started somewhere to go somewhere. You start with a little thing to go somewhere. You understand me? And I want to tell youth and everybody that takes drugs today that drugs is not good. You know why? I've learned, remember me, speaker, drugs can make your life to not be good. They can go to your heart. You cannot see it now by taking them. What they do, they mess up with your life. You understand me? If you are a man, there's where they touch. If you're a woman, there's where they touch. They make your life to not be good. Firstly, they make you to disobey if you're a child. You start to have this character of disobeying your parents. So that is not good. So I want to tell you that I never went to rehab to quit drugs. I made a decision. So you can still make a decision today and become somebody. You are somebody. You are the royal priesthood. Where you are, you can take drugs for now, but your past can make you to be somebody tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Sizakele, for sharing your story. And I'm sure there's so many things that we didn't get the opportunity to chat about, but I really appreciate you also just showing how your life in itself is a testimony. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hashtag Unpacked with Relebogile. Let us know your thoughts on today's discussion, particularly that of being arrested, of being convicted and serving time in prison in another country far from home when you know that you are guilty. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night. Next time on Unpacked.
I was dizzy, shortness of breath. I couldn't stand for very long.
I had lost 10 kilograms in about 3 weeks.
We got the results, found out that it was diabetes.
You're going to be doing this every single day for the rest of your life.
You do what you have to live. Yeah. It's not easy, but it's not that difficult.
Thank you so much for watching Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. Make sure you subscribe to my channel where you can get to watch more episodes. But more importantly, you can be part of our online community. Comment down below, share with us who you'd like to see on the show, what story you'd like us to discuss. We love engaging with you. Keep it coming and don't forget to subscribe.